Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. Was it okay that Super Columbine Massacre RPG was created and distributed?
For those of us that don't know, can you give some context on the Columbine Massacre?
On the 20th of April 1999, 2 students went into Columbine High School, set with explosives and guns, and went to kill a lot of people. And sadly they did kill 11 students and 1 teacher, while injuring upwards of 20 more. And they did indeed have a plan to kill upwards of 500 people as well by blowing up the entire school with 2 profane explosives they had. That is essentially what the Columbine shooting was, shortened down.
Great shooting. What year is that?
Year 12.
So 6th one?
Yeah, essentially. They were 17 years old.
Oh.
No, one was 17, one was 16 from what I remember. Can't remember which way around they were though. Information up here.
So how did someone turn that into a game?
2 words. RPG Maker. You don't know what RPG Maker is, do you?
No.
RPG Maker is essentially an easy to use game engine that allows you to make a role-playing game, RPG. Quite simply, the code is mostly already there and it's been around for quite a long time. They're on to version, what's it, MV now? Don't know what number that is, I'm not good with Roman numerals. But I believe it was created in RPG Maker 2000. The man behind the game is a man called Danny Ladon, who is Colorado born and raised, born in El Mesa, and was born on the 18th of January 1982, making him, how old was that? 17 when the massacre actually happened.
What is it, a game developer?
Not actually a game developer. He studied film and he wanted to be a film, not critic, filmmaker, whatever else in his life. He did go on to make films, one of which, called Playing Columbine, was actually about the game he made, but he made the game because he wanted to connect with people his own age, and he thought he could do that much better in a game environment.
Can you explain a bit about how the game plays out?
Yes. The game plays out through the entire day. You start when you wake up with playing as... hang on. Try and remember the game. You start playing as Eric or you start playing as Dylan? No, you start playing as Eric, I think. Yeah. You start the game by playing as Eric. You start when it wakes up. So your alarm goes off. It's 6:30 in the morning, if I remember correctly, or 7 o'clock in the morning. And you get a phone call from Dylan telling you it's the big day and everything. And then you go down into your basement, you pick up all your guns and your weaponry, you drive off to the school. And the point of that was not just having the game as a shoot 'em up, but you wanted to play the entire... Ladon made it so that you had to play the entire day and you had to understand what they did up to the point where the massacre happened at 11 o'clock. And I think that's what makes it different from being just insensitive. He wanted it to be a lot more informed. There's a lot of really niche info in the game. You can go and read the water fountain, it tells you where it's from in Denver, Colorado. That is a fact.
Is it on Steam?
No, it's not on Steam, you get it from the download link on the website.
I was going to say, they surely ban that.
You'd be surprised with Steam, there's a lot of shit on there. No, there's a download link on the website that you just... And I downloaded it the other day and it still works. It works on Windows 10 perfectly. Straight download. Went to a Google Drive. But it's surprising that it's still up there considering all the backlash, but there's a lot of very controversial games that are even still on major distributing platforms. Games like Hatred, which caused a lot of controversy and was built to cause controversy more than likely. But yeah, there's no end to controversy in gaming, it's great.
How much backlash came from the game?
Quite a lot of backlash, unsurprisingly. From the start it was mainly from, you had a lot of people just being like, this is incredibly insensitive. One thing to remember is this game came out in 2005, this was 6 years after the massacre happened. So it wasn't necessarily a reactionary thing where it's just like, oh, I can get loads of clicks with this. No, he made it over time because he wanted to put a little bit of effort into the game to make it more of a conversation. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But he did get a lot of backlash to himself because it was insensitive to the victims And one of the victims in particular, I can't remember his name, and I can't find the quote anywhere to save my life. But it was this quote behind me that you might or might not be able to see. It's the glamorisation of a tragedy. That was how one of the friends of the victims that died, one of the classmates, described it. And the point was counteracted by the Don, saying it's not a glamorisation of it, it's just what happened, it's just the facts. And I think that it's okay to discuss that and make conversation out of it with the game without saying that you're necessarily glorifying it. You might be playing as the shooters, but that doesn't make them the good guys in the situation. That make sense?
Yes. Why did Ledon choose to make this game?
He chose to make it because he wanted to start a conversation about mental health, because soon after the game came out in 1999, there was a lot of, not the game, soon after the shooting in 1999, there was a lot of conversation about what caused them to do this. And was Doom, because Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold played that game to death. They played it every day. And Dylan used to make levels within the game, because Doom had its little editor and everything. And they actually made the school in that editor. And they had all their classmates in there as the monsters, and it was, I can't say it was well done because that's insensitive, but it was, you could see that the game was having some effect, but it was not the cause, in my opinion. They also pinned it on some Marilyn Manson music, because they listened to a lot of that sort of stuff. And in the game, you can hear soundtracks like the Smashing Pumpkins, 9 Inch Nails is in there, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana. A lot of these games are put in as MIDI tracks, and that was the sort of music they were listening to. And there was so much talk about what media was having an effect on them, particularly when it comes to Doom, because in my opinion it was taken away from the poor gun lobbying that was going on, trying to keep it away from being a talk about gun crime and how these two teenagers could get these guns and do this and commit this atrocity. But to pin it on Doom was, yeah, it needed to be a talk about mental health as opposed to a talk about Doom and video games. Mental health had too much of an impact not to be talked about, but this was 1999, it was a different time. If you had depression or anxiety or you were bullied to death like these two kids, you were told to man up.
Okay. You mentioned they got bullied a lot. What effect do you think that had?
Yeah, the two of them were the outcasts and the misfits of the not of the entire school, let's say, but they were definitely the more nerdy and geeky types of people. They'd be sat on their own, they'd be playing games, they were into D&D, whatever else. And getting bullied a lot, it does have that effect, and I think that did spark a lot of their sort of, they wanted to get payback on people that did this and the system that sort of let this happen to them. There was a story about them having a particular dislike towards one of the girls, because I think one of them had a crush on them. I'll put some information up here. And they wanted just to have a little bit of revenge, I guess. But it was mostly about just sort of, they needed this release. They had all this pent up rage that they took out on Doom. They took out in listening to hard rock music and whatever else. And they wanted some sort of escape from that. And I think it just built up and built up until they had to do something drastic in real life. I suppose you could say there was copycat murder, not copycat murders, but there was some attempted copycats of it because of what happened. But I don't feel like that was necessary. I think it's easy to say, oh, this person's doing this because this other person did it and they got away with it. These Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold did not get away with it. I mean, they shot themselves at the end of it. That's not including the 11 students and one teacher they shot and killed. But it was the worst school shooting in America up until 2007, when there was 32 people killed by another student at a school in a different part of the country. And America still refused to change its gun laws and still wanted to blame it on other things. To not have the talk about mental health and the whatever else went into it, and how easy it is for the teenagers to get guns. They got some guns out of their dad's shed, I believe, because he had guns in there. And they took 2 duffel bags to the school, snuck past the cameras. This is how the game plays out as well. I'll put the little clip in of me playing it. But you sneak past the cameras, you sneak past the 4 monitors, went into the canteen, planted their 2 bombs, and then they went out and they drove to the park and just looked over Littleton.
Should video games be protected under freedom of speech?
Yeah, they should. Like any other media, like paintings, like film. Because the definition of freedom of speech, I have it here. The power or right to express one's opinion without censorship, restraint or legal penalty. Now, what the Don did could be considered distasteful and offensive to the victims' families, the friends, whatever else. But at the end of the day, it still should be protected by freedom of speech because it was his opinion. He wanted to make the game and he wanted people to understand that was what the game was about. And he even said himself, people have sort of think of him as like this little monster. That's his words, not mine. But he's not. He just wanted to start a conversation that no one wanted to have. And if he has, usually you have to do something controversial to start that conversation. And he said it himself in another article that the violence wasn't necessarily a good thing. He didn't necessarily want it to happen, but it was inevitable the way the world was going. The way that America had their gun laws, you could just get hold of a gun, whatever, buy it at Walmart. Something like this was bound to happen eventually. And is it a shame it happened? Yes. Did the world learn from it? Well, clearly not.
Did he get like prosecuted or anything for it?
What, Alex Jones or?
No. This guy.
No.
I suppose it's not really illegal, is it?
It's not illegal to make a game about something. He wanted to express his opinion through games. He thought he could reach the young people who were his age at the time, because he'd been 23, 6 years after that, yeah.
Yes. He must have had something wrong with him if he thought that's what's going to connect.
Well, in theory, a lot of people do think that, and from the people that I've spoken to, both in and out of the industry, have just been like, yeah, it's distasteful, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, but it did wake people up to it because it got the attention it needed. If he'd have written a book about it, it got shoved under the carpet.
True, yeah.
You make a film about it, it's just, oh look, it's this piece about a horrible shooting, let's join the rest of them. Game, interactive, it's in there, people are playing it, that's the difference.
Yeah.
It's always the difference between a book or a film and like a painting or whatever. You're spectating it. There's a game, you're playing it, it's interactive. You are Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold and you're playing this game and you're shooting up that school. You're playing as these 2 characters, you're doing the things yourself. That's why games are so much more controversial in that case. Particularly because young people do play them. Because you think, oh, these kids are just going online and they're shooting people and they're doing this and that. They're still playing a piece of media. You and I play video games for God knows how long. Call of Duty, whatever else. I've seen you get more angry over FIFA than you have Call of Duty sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Not meaning you're going to go shoot up a school.
Overall, what are your thoughts on the game, and was it okay for the game to be released?
My thoughts on the game is, the game itself for 2005 it's alright. It's not the worst game I've ever seen. There's Unity asset flips today that are worse than that. So from an actual game making standpoint, the game's pretty good. The content's there, but the context of it being about the Columbine shooting is still, it's a touchy subject. But I think it's good that the game was made. I like the fact that LeDon took the chance and wanted to start this conversation about mental health and whatever else by making the game. And as we've seen with other sort of games like GTA, games are a very easy target to be blamed because of how interactive they are and how many young people play them. and the old generation would just go, nah, games. But yeah, I think the fact that to buy the game you had to know, not even to buy it was a free download, but to get it you had to know about it. It was from a website, or you had to be shared it by your friends. So it wasn't like you could buy it off a shelf in a supermarket. It wasn't just thrown to your face like Battlefield 2, where it's just in your face on the telly and it's just like, oh, get this new game, it's about shooting. It was much more just, you're on either, it's a very much a Marmite game in my opinion. You either like it because it's a bit edgy and you play it because you want to experience what it was like and you want to see it from their point of view, because that's what the game's about. It's about experiencing it from the point of view of the shooter and seeing what they sort of go through. Or you're on the side that is just like, no, this is just not an okay subject. You just shouldn't go near it. It's like if someone made, there's been games about the Twin Towers and other sort of quite controversial stuff like that. And it's okay to be on that side if you think that is just where the line should be. You just shouldn't cross it. But you won't ever push your boundaries if you're always on that side, in my opinion. There's got to be some people that try and push the limit. They try and do things a bit differently, even if it's going to annoy quite a few people, as this definitely did. But it was fine. In a lot of young people it started the conversation he wanted to start, and even some of the victims couldn't see, or some of the victims' families and friends could see why he made the game. It's a personal opinion. It's just a controversial subject, and there's not much else to say about it. This has been my video presentation on Super Columbine Massacre RPG, and if it was okay for it to be distributed and created. Yeah, references will be in a separate document that will be sent to you, and link to the outtakes.